also made some kind of statement about how everyone had basically made up their mind, which I don't know how he would assume that. But despite there being several people wanting to speak on the issue, he basically ended any discussion, which is odd because many of the those who are opposed to closed primaries claim they're opposed to it because there hasn't been enough debate and dialogue. That was actually mentioned in a speech earlier done by the Rules Chair, Steve Lux of the Rules Committee. So anyway, he made that motion, but he wasn't even recognized first. So then a lot of confusion occurred after that.
And so I think somebody else mentioned there was a point of order, and it, like he said, it got a little bit out of control, but it was disorder there for a minute. And then John L. said, well, because she had already recognized this lady Sharon, that she was going to let Sharon speak, and then she wanted Chase Duggar to come back up to the microphone and make the motion at that time. So, despite the fact that I had already been recognized, and the fact that there was a line of people there that he just kind of went in front of, Sharon was allowed to speak because she was saying she wanted to keep it as it is with not having closed primaries. She sat down, and then they had John L. told Chase Duggar to come back up, which he did, made the motion, and that ended it. So you couldn't have any more discussion, they said. And they immediately went to a vote on do we want to end discussion or not. And a lot of people were confused. In fact, as I was already standing there in the front, Mr. Benny Speaks, who's probably been part of the Republican Party for years, I'm assuming, he even said it was confusing. Anyway, I walked back to my seat to go ahead and get placed to vote, and John L. said for those that wanted to have discussion to stand, right?
Yes, and be counted.
And stand to be counted. Okay, so people are standing, and they asked, well, I saw that detail about anyway, it was supposed to be a 2/3 majority vote.
They claimed that they needed 139 out of 207? 208.
I guess that's why they did the extra, because I did the math, and it would have been 138, but I guess, didn't they say maybe plus one?
Yes.
So that's where the 139. So anyway, we go to vote, and this other thing I thought was significant, because that was one of the things I wanted to say when I went to the front to talk, is that we have these badges that say whether or not we can vote today. You know, as a state committee member, I'm looking for my badge. But anyway, so Jonelle said, while everybody's standing, she said, and make sure your badge is visible, whether you're a voting member. And then I thought that was so significant. aside from that, it was the same scenario replayed today, where the case they want presented is given all the time, given the platform, and